Welcome to Black, Red, and Blue. I'm AJ, and with me, as always, is Steve.
Hey, I love draws! Oh, they're so much fun. Nothing better than not winning or not losing.
Well, at least it was a high-scoring draw session, right?
Yep.
That's better.
Better.
So the one thing I got to say, though, is if you're going to draw or lose, at the bare minimum, what you want to see is you want to see your team just score a lot. You want to see a lot of action, at least be entertained. Steve, were you entertained?
The entire game. I listened to the first half. I was on my way home from playing D&D with some friends. I listened to the first half. I was able to watch the entire second half. I was entertained the entire time, because we have all these new players that, they were kind of playing out. They were doing what they're supposed to, So the fact that we were entertained, I think Russell Crowe would be proud of that. What about you? Were you entertained? Were you not entertained?
I was definitely entertained. The one thing I wanted to bring up to you today is about these players in MLS. So I remember seeing the transfer report talking about how Hartzell was going to come over here and he was going to just eat the MLS alive.
Yeah.
And I mean, come on. I think it's just a bunch of Euro snobs, honestly. Hopefully I don't get canceled for saying that. But just a lot of people hating on American sports, thinking that MLS is just a completely crappy league. I'll admit, 100%, right? The Premier League is amazing. They would crush probably every single team that we have, and that's okay. But let's not pretend that every other league around the world is way better than MLS.
Right.
I mean, even Messi, right? They were like, Messi's going to come over here and just eat the league alive. I agree. He is amazing, and he's scoring a lot, and he has tons of assists, and he, quote unquote, is eating the league alive. But every other league he plays in, right, he does the exact same thing.
Yeah,
and
he's
still beatable. He's still beatable here. I don't think we have as bad of a league as people think. So when I was watching Toyer and Hartel, this is the whole point that I'm trying to make here, is, these guys are good, and I think they made a big difference, especially on the set pieces with Hartel, but they weren't somehow these magical players that were going to lead to 8 goals a game or whatever.
Right.
I mean, what did you think about those two?
No, I think their addition to our team was amazing. And to kind of piggyback on what you said about the league, it's like if people in Europe were to start an NFL right now, how long would it take for them to get to the NFL's level, the American version of the NFL? Yes, the Premier League is super great right now, but what happens in 40 years when we start to build our brand and the MLS starts to become big? They're big because they have all the best players. They can afford to bring the best players. I think I saw some of the teams in the European League have 200 years worth of contracts because of how much money they have. Imagine how good our league's going to be when we can get to that point. So yes, I mean, this league just started in the 1990s. So I think it's going to be great. And to your point also, yes, when our new players came over, you're not going to run any of these other kids over because look at how good the rest of the league is. They are just helping our team get to the level of some other teams. So yes, they're great, they're good, but they're not the best players on earth because we have a lot of great players. So while they're really good, they clearly make a huge impact on our offense. You're right, it's not like we're trying to stack our team. So
and the other thing is with the MLS too is they're kind of smart, right? The predecessor to the MLS, one of the reasons why they folded was because they were overspending and they just had very loose roster requirements, I guess you could say. And they spent more than they could afford, and then they kind of folded. So MLS has definitely taken a much more cautious approach, hence why there's DPs and stuff like that.
Yep.
We just don't have an unlimited payroll, I guess you could say, which does hold us back some, but I feel like we do better with our rosters with what we have than a lot of other leagues because we have to.
Yeah.
Just kind of going to the Leagues Cup, I'm a little bit of flight of ideas here, but we talked a little bit during the Leagues Cup, but one thing I heard a lot online, and tell me if you saw this too, is that a lot of the Mexican teams, they just weren't trying.
No,
And
well,
it frustrates me every time because if the Mexican teams get knocked out, they weren't trying. But if they win, MLS sucks.
shows how good they are.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you ever play pick up game of basketball with a guy that says really good and you lose and all of a sudden he starts holding his shoulder like, oh man, I couldn't have had it today. Well, that's the same thing. If these teams want to come out and win, they can just play better. How about that? They can just be a better team. And our MLS teams smoked them. I made a meme that like our team kind of knocked their senses out, and then Colorado finished off Club America. Like we are pretty good. They're like, yeah. So I think we are right there, and they can just suck it. They should have, if they wanted to win the Leagues Cup, they should have done better.
Yeah. Speaking of the League's Cup compared to last year and this year, Club America game, I felt like what was it, 4-2, I think. But
Yeah.
the fourth goal was kind of like an empty netter, like equivalent with hockey, because Berkeley
Right.
was all the way up. So basically, how I'm looking at it is we lost 3-2.
Mhm.
That's pretty good against Club America, one of the
Yeah.
best teams in North America. One of the best, not just
Yeah.
MLS, but
No.
just
The best.
all
Yeah.
of North America. Compared to last year, what did we lose? Like
4-0.
15-0?
Right. And it wasn't even close. It was disgusting. They were in our home and they just wiped the floor with us. And it wasn't the case this time. And I think they felt it.
Yeah. So sorry, I digress a little bit, but talking about this game, we talked a little bit about Hartel and Twitter. What were some of your big takeaways from this game? Like the game ended. How did you feel? Like what were you thinking?
Okay, so the game ended in a draw, and while you're never happy about a draw, especially when you get the draw from a winning position, I did not feel like it was a draw from June, where it's like, "Ugh, we did it again." We scored 4 goals. I don't think we've scored 4 goals this entire season in a regular season match, and we looked good in the process. I felt bad about the defense. That's usually the beginning of the season. That was kind of like our stalwart, our back line. But other than that, and I also feel like Leuven no longer has to be that main piece. The set pieces, they're letting Hartle and Tuyer take those. And that's great. One thing I just continue to be amazed at, and this is probably my ignorance, I did not think Betcher was going to be this good. I thought he was a local kid sign up. I thought they just brought him in just because he was a SLU kid and we were getting him on the cheap. But Jesus, he's made a huge impact.
They cannot take this guy and put him on the bench when Klaus comes.
All right, how could you?
You have to find a way to get him on there. I don't care if we go to 4-4-2.
You got to go 4-4-2, yeah.
Klaus. I mean, I love Klaus and I think he's got the finishing ability, but right now, if I have to compare the two, if you had the pick, I don't know. I can't not have Betcher there. He's just in the right place at the right times, and he has some finishing. I do think Klaus has better finishing. Don't get me wrong, but man, he's just in the right place at the right time so many times, man.
Yep. I think another thing that I took out of this game is that Hackworth, I'm still not super impressed with his head coaching abilities. I think the timing of the subs is weird. I thought the lineup was okay at the beginning of the game. I thought the lineup was fine, but like, I just don't, for those fans that are saying take the interim tag off, he's our head coach. I don't think so, guys. Not with this lineup, not with the money we have. We need a top tier MLS coach, and he's great in the front office. I'm sure there's things he can do. He's taking on over half a season to be the head coach. I don't trust that he should be the guy that we move going forward, especially with all these contracts. What do you think?
Yeah.
Do you agree with me? Am I nuts or?
Yeah. So we like to play a game goal or no goal, and I'm going to kind of piggyback your point here. So somebody on Reddit had said about Totland how great he was doing at the beginning of this year, but he just seems gassed. He seems like he needs to recoup or whatever. Kind of thinking back, I can kind of see that. He doesn't have the same energy as he did before. He had a high expected threat. He was really making an impact, and he just is falling off. So the piggyback your point with Hackworth is when you're seeing this, should we have sat him at some point? Should we have given him some time off to recoup? Maybe it was this game. Maybe it's next game. I don't know. So it's decisions like this that makes me wonder if he is the right coach for the job. I agree
Right.
with you also is the substitutions. Was it the Club America game where they just came like super late and you just needed some energy? Oh, was it Club America? Or I can't remember. But there was one of the games where we just subbed so late. And
Yeah.
you're like, man, you just need to get some fresh legs out there because sometimes you need that person who's really going to, kind of like Indy did this past game. He came out and he started challenging their offense and really started the press. He was like the progenitor for press once he came on.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not super impressed. I think he's benefiting on the fact that the team seems better. And let's like, if you're going to look at it scientifically, like they're better because there's a lot of different factors going on right now. And is he part of that? Is his cause the effect? And I don't think so. I think he was probably brought in. I think Lutz is like, just be a game manager. Like this, just fill in. We'll figure it out during the off season. But like, let's just say he should not be our head coach next year. And I don't think he wants to be. I don't think he wants to be. I just think it had to, BC had to go, and we'll move on from there. But that was my take. Those are my takes. I don't think we're allowed to say that Berkey wasn't great, but there were some things happening that I don't like. That one punch out he did, he just punched it right to the Portland guy, and he just snuck it right in. So like, I don't think this. I think it's safe to say it wasn't his best game, but I don't think we're allowed to criticize Berkey yet.
It was a mixed bag though, because he had a couple of great saves.
Yeah,
And then, like you said, one of the first goals, he had the ball, and then instead of catching it, it kind of dribbled away from him.
Yep.
Like he actually tried to, and he made that mess up. The same one that you're talking about too, that was definitely an error by Berkey, which we don't usually see. And I guess, sometimes that stuff is going to happen. I mean, these guys are hitting these balls like 1,000 miles an hour. I mean, this isn't easy. I think we got spoiled because we're used to Berkey just automatically
making everything.
Things.
Yeah.
And then I think we just got unlucky that it just so happened that two of these happened in one game. If only one of these happened, we would have been like,
it's a win.
Whatever,
It's a win. Yeah. We'd rather 4-3. Oh, one more thing, like I took out, like I was listening to the radio when Leuven made his PK, and the Y98 guys were pretty emphatic of how powerfully he kicked that ball. Like he made a point that it was a laser. Like none of these soft touches. They even said like none of these slow dribbles, none of these pauses. He just walked up, bashed it into the corner. And so like you watched it, was it really like just they made it seem like he just put his foot through the ball, and that was really great.
100% top left shelf. It was one of those kicks that usually, like when people are taking PKs, they make sure it's on frame. It's usually like a half kick, and they're just trying to beat the goalie's direction because it's like a 50-50 shot and then some, right?
Right.
But the thing is he put the ball where no goalie is going to save it, but he had to elevate it, and he kicked it hard, so it was impossible to save. Now, the risk is obviously if you kick it too hard, you send it over the net. But that confidence that he said, you know what, I'm just going to bury this. I'm going to make sure that this goalie cannot even touch this. And that's what he did. Like, that's the level of confidence he had. That ball had tons of pace on it.
That's good to see. That's good because some of the PKs we've been seeing were kind of ridiculous. So that's good that he just angrily put it right through. That's great.
Yeah, man. It was great. So one of the controversial things is that red card.
Yeah.
Before we get to the red card, let's talk about this ref. Every week you do a ref report, and part of the process is to see how these refs are going to impact the game. Because let's face it, it's an art. The center ref drastically changes the game, right? If you have a team who's very physical and you have a ref who is giving out tons of yellow cards, that actually impacts how these players are going to play. Would you agree?
Oh yeah. Yeah. If the team is aware, yeah, for sure. So I looked up this guy, and he's got a French name. It's Remy Toucan. Like it's a really cool name. And I looked up and I had to check his stats multiple times because it didn't make sense at first. He's been a ref for 6 years, and his average before last night's game was 20 fouls a game. And his average for yellow cards were like 5 yellow cards a game. His average. So that's the middle of the lines. He gives out some more, he gives out some less. And his dead average is that. And that was outstanding to see. I didn't know if that would play out. As I was listening to this match on the way home, it's just like game's going, foul, game's going, foul, game's going, yellow. And I did see a stat at the end of the game that City had 22 fouls called on them. Seattle or Portland had 12. So that's 30, what that 34 fouls called. In yesterday's match, so he averages 5 yellows a game and less than 1 red, but he does give out reds. City had 3 yellow cards. Portland had 4 yellow cards and a red. So that's 8 cards, 7 yellow cards. Like this guy was giving them out like crazy. And I'm sure towards the middle of the game, end of the game, the players are feeling frustrated because the pace of the game, you mentioned it, that a lot of European leagues, like those 90-minute matches, they're only playing like 60 minutes. I can imagine if we go back and someone were to clock the actual action of this game, it was probably below 60, like constant starting and stopping.
Yeah, I agree.
And then the red card that you can talk about it. We both saw it. And at first I was like, the guy was dirty. But when you look at it, even the Apple guys are like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. So, my father brought up a point. He texted me during that portion of the game. And he said, well, hey, I don't know if it should be red. It probably should be yellow. But here's the thing is, if people are thinking about this, it's either a card or it's a red. It's nothing in between. And the reason why is because if you don't think it's a card, okay, it's incidental, no big deal, whatever. But if you think that there was any kind of recklessness, it was a boot to the head, that has to be a red, right? Because it's dangerous play. That's something that just can't happen. So when I was watching it back, I was like, man, like if this was my team, I would definitely be ticked off because I wouldn't think it's a red. But at the same time, you can't just do a yellow on that. You had to do a red. So it definitely, I think it impacted the game. But what was actually surprising, Portland didn't let off at all.
No, it helped them almost. And the player that got booted off was their player that scored a brace last night. And it still didn't affect them. I wonder if that isn't a type of red card that is preventative for future instances. Like everyone else needs to be aware that if your foot touches another player's head, you're getting a red. Like if that is almost like a mandate that the MLS puts out for, US, their pro puts out for their referees. Like if there is foot to head contact on the ground, we have to start calling reds because you don't want players to see that they can get away with it. And then they start to tiptoe into more stomping. And then all of a sudden, then you got a cleat in that forehead. That's what we can't have. So I don't know. What do you think? You think that maybe that's why that red was called? Because looking back, unless they said there could have been like a stutter step, like that actually you can tell he did it, but like his body language, soccer players are not good actors a lot of times. And his body language was like, what do you mean I got a red? Like it really seemed like he didn't intentionally do that, but gotta watch your body.
Yeah, I think what we saw, and the reason why yellows started coming out left and right, is that Portland started to decompensate mentally. Like there was a lot of unnecessary roughness. You remember the whole Betcher thing?
Oh yeah, he was fired up. Yeah.
Was that Mora who did that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I think he was getting kind of fired up. I think he was starting to be reckless. I think that red card in part was the refs seeing these little things that just kind of culminated.
Oh, yeah.
There's a possibility that if this was at the beginning of the game, I think there's a chance that there might have been no card here, right? But I think it just that he saw that Mora was starting to essentially mentally lose it, like the rest of Portland.
Maybe this guy, this referee, this two-card, maybe he is almost like a librarian in his rules where you have to follow his rules all the time. This is why he hands out all these yellows and then he hands out a red later in the game. Like that is his pitch. he is in charge of that. He's not going to allow any kind of madness. Where you've got some other referees that are like, hey, just don't bring a knife, and I guess we're cool. Like it seemed like he really wants to have full control. And I think this brought up your point you made earlier in the season when we were just discussing doing these kind of reports is it is such a personal experience for the refs. Like you really can't have a robot out there doing it because they have to see their eyes. The assistant refs have to see what they're doing. And like every match has its own flow. And it's good to know this data going into it. Like here's kind of how they might predict. I predicted, I did say on my ref report, this will be a yellow card match. And sure as shit, I think Horn came out there and he had a yellow card in like the first 30 seconds he was out. He stepped on the pitch and he's like, you get a yellow. Welcome to the MLS. And like, that guy wasn't out there, but like as soon as he hopped on, I was like, God, that guy was fast. But yeah, so yeah, it's good to see.
Before we go today, let's talk about this back line. So, in my opinion, okay, here's a little semi-hot take. I think we miss Parker. Kessler, by the numbers, like if you look at SofaScore and stuff like that, should have been pretty much a direct replacement for Parker as far as like the numbers go. But I feel like we really miss Parker out there. There was just something about his confidence, his style of play that I just don't think we had out there.
Yeah, that kind of. By the way, Parker didn't play yesterday
with New England.
Really? Yeah, nope. He was on the bench. He had 0 minutes playing, so they won 5-0. So maybe that's part of the reason. But yeah, the back line, New England's really good. They are all above 7 on FOTMOB, 7.0 on FOTMOB. So like, yeah. So Parker was benched. Just keep that in mind.
Well, so there's a possibility, and I'm just kind of thinking here, is part of this was a salary dump by New England because they would have had Kessler for a while. Here, now they get Parker after an end season. He's gone. Are they just not playing him because they want to develop their line for next year?
Right. But like, so he would be our best player. And he's sitting in New England. That's how good New England is, and they could afford to get rid of him. But like, yeah, I did see also that Kessler had the fewest touches of the entire pitch last night. So for someone who plays on the back line, he touched the ball the fewest number of times of any player on the pitch. That's probably not great for a center back. Probably not a great stat.
No. The one thing I'm actually still pleasantly surprised about is Hebert playing as a center back. I don't like him as left back, but he's actually pretty serviceable for our center back. I don't think he's as good as Nilsson or Parker, but still, he's been quite serviceable. I'm actually quite happy. Reed, on the other hand, holy crap, man, not so great.
Not so great.
Yeah. One thing I noticed is that he could not handle the press. He kept on getting challenged to the point where he was getting surrounded, that his only outlet was to pass backwards deep in our own defensive zone. And he just got ate alive out there.
My boy was getting cooked.
Yeah, that's another way.
It was embarrassing. It was almost like the Mechanic versus Paintsill debacle, where it's just like, no matter what, like, it was bad. Now, so about the center back. Where does Horn fit in? Because, like you said, you would rather have Hebert as a center back than a left back, but center back is Horn's position. And so if you got Kessler, Hebert, Horn, who gets pushed out? Because right now, and then by the way, Nilsson, if he can ever stay healthy, if that glass hip of his can ever kind of heal up, we can get him out there. But like, where do we put Hebert on the left back? Because we can't play Reed all the time.
So I'm pretty sure Lutz had basically said that he was bringing in Horn to play left back.
Okay.
So I could be wrong. Somebody will probably fact check me. But it kind of makes sense because I feel like we have enough center backs. And I feel like the left back is kind of questionable. Because, like, remember when Marcanic first came in? I was like, yeah, man, finally somebody who's going to do something. Like, he had like a little spurt and then he kind of fizzled out so quickly. Reed, he came in. We were like, yeah, Reed's going to be the best center or left back in the league. And then he's fizzling out. I think it makes sense to put Horn back there. we already have Nilsson, Hebert, who plays much better center back. Yaro's probably going to be gone after this year, probably going to go to
San Diego.
San Diego. Wenzel, we still have. Who am I missing? JGR,
Yeah.
center back.
He barely played last night, too.
Yeah, so I feel like we have enough center back. We don't have enough left back.
Now, I just looked, and it looks like if Lutz has said that he's going to have him play left back, take your word for it. But like, at least on FotMob, some other sites I just saw, his primary position is center back. Now, if he is saying he can be flexible and he can play the left back, let's do it, because like we're saying, Reed's not it. He's great. He came out in the first couple of matches when we had like the episode we had where we had the kindergarten crew out there. Like, he was great then, but he just got torched last night. At least one of those goals has to be on him for getting up through, probably a couple, because they were on that side. So our back line was definitely a liability last night, we'll say. Yeah, you're right. We are missing Parker there for now. Game 1 without Parker, not great. Now, let's see if we can get them together. This is the first time a lot of these guys were playing. Maybe we'll come back out against number 1 team in the West next Sunday and have a great game.
Yeah, I'm looking at Transfer Market, talking about Horn. Although mostly uses center back in Nuremberg, St. Louis is planning Horn to play as a left back. But it's also interesting because if he has the capability of a center back, Nilsson, like you said, is always constantly hurt. I think it gives us some options. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. No, and if he can do it, God bless him.
So, well, before we head off, any last thoughts? Anything upcoming?
Yeah. How about real quick?
Yeah.
What about the lineup for next game? Like we like to do. Like, if you were the coach, what are you going to put out there against LA? Well, you know you got the speed of Paintsill and you've got all that skill. Who are you putting out there?
Well, obviously you got to put Batcher, Toyer, Hartel. I'm not putting Thor out there. I'm putting Indy out there. I think Indy is a much better player. I don't get this fascination with Thor.
I think it's the Midwest, bless his heart kind of stuff, where you're required to look for like the best of someone instead of just saying he's a millionaire sports ball player. He's not good enough, and it's okay to not be good enough. I just think everyone's like, we don't want to be mean to him. Meanwhile, there's other players that we're like, chase him out here on the rail, but like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I anybody would be better out there when he gets healthy. Indy, Thor's, I'm sorry, he's our bench.
Yeah, he ain't it.
Striker / winger, maybe. Not even striker, to be honest. So, obviously, Durkin and Leuven should be out there. I think we need to give Totland a rest.
Yeah.
Even against our opponent next week. I think we need to give him a rest. Reed, I would actually consider putting Reed out there again, just because I think he could maybe keep up with Sill. I don't know how fast Horn is. I really haven't seen him enough, but it's either Horn or Reed, to be honest.
All right. So, yeah. So then you'll go Hebert and then Kessler for the center backs?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, they're our best shot, right? Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is a killer lineup. My God, just that front line there with Tukert,
We'll get there.
Bert and Ernie. All right, we got Bert and Ernie out there. All right. Hartzell and then Becker on the top. Yeah, and then, I don't know what that back line, but yeah, I think you're right. Tomlin definitely needs to sit. Keel Watts can play out there. We can have a fast team out there. Put a Keel Watts on one side, Reed on the other side. Let those fast guys move. Give Keeper and Kessler some sort of like super serum to make them better players, I guess. And then Berkey, convince them that it's cool to not make mistakes, and then we should not lose. Go for another draw, because we know how much we love those in City this year.
I know. Oh, it's the theme of the season.
This is, I think the actual team, the team poster next year should just be hand drawn. Just hand draw the picture next year. Just have an artist come out there and hand draw. So that's all we want to do, right? However, we dig, but like, I did not come out of this game feeling bad. I didn't. Came out like, That last goal that Portland scored, that Golazo we talked about, you just, like I said, you tip your hat. They earned it. They earned that draw, and we earned the draw as well. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean that goal, you can't defend against it. Like the wall that's in front isn't going to jump high enough to be able to
No.
get that. The goalkeeper, I don't care who it is, you can't get it. That's just one of those that's in an untouchable zone. And
Right.
you just have to have a perfect shot. And you just, like you said, you tip your hat. You're like,
Right.
guess you can't do anything. It's just like with Leuven's PK.
Yep.
Goalkeeper can never get that in that top left shelf. Sorry, it's just not going to happen. You just tip your hat and say, nice job. You didn't sail it. You hit it right into the untouchable zone. You win.
And before we go, like, one thing that I have noticed this second year of watching MLS is that, yep, Berkey is great. He was the goalie of the year last year. AJ, there are a ton of really good goalies in this league. There's really not a lot of really poor goalies. And that's one thing that I keep noticing is like a lot of these goalies are making really good shots. And I think that comes down to the parity that MLS is wanting. And it's like, so you're never going to have a lot of teams that are just getting blown out. Although I can say, because our offense has sucked so bad this year, guess what our goal differential stands at right now?
I did see it. It's -10 or something.
It's -14.
14.
14. So, like, even though we scored 4 goals, if we would have given up 4 less, I guess we would be at least a -10 at this point. But yeah, -14. But like, there's a lot of good goalies, and it's exciting to see some of these saves. So it's good. I like the skill of our league, kind of what you brought up earlier with these guys coming in. Like, there's not going to be huge blowout. So I think it's great.
Well, and unfortunately, we're not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs.
Yeah.
But it would take a lot for us. I mean, I think we would have to win basically 8 out of 8 of our next games for us to have a chance, honestly. In fact, you had brought up beforehand that we might actually be challenging the wooden spoon. 24 points, right?
We're at 26 and we're at 24. Yeah, I think we're at 24. And San Jose is only 7 points behind us. So if we continue to lose, they win a few more. Boom, we're in last place. We could end up getting the spoon in our second year. So I don't want to put a wooden spoon on my wall back here. I'd rather keep it positive. But if we get it, I'll have to. But like, yep, we could still get the spoon.
Yeah. So we definitely don't want to do that. That's a confidence killer. In some ways, it might actually be a motivator.
Yep. Colorado got the spoon last year, and they're in 4th place right now. But I think,
isn't that classic MLS, right?
Right. Well, Cincinnati won the spoon their second year, and then they've been where they are. So
we went from top of the West to second bottom.
yeah.
What?
But like we keep saying though, because our seasons are split from the rest of the world, it's hard to be proactive in your roster builds. When you're winning, you have to, like we went through last year, so we don't have to relitigate all this. But like, we're seeing what happens now when that talent level is down, so we can come flying up again next year. And so we will probably be close to the top again next year. Some of those teams are at the top. Their contracts are going to get real funky. They're going to be dropping. So like, I think I kind of agree with how the league is set up, where you're never going to be stuck in the bottom for long. Toronto was horrible last year, and they're edging towards the playoffs this year, which is phenomenal. It's good to see.
Well, on that note, Steve, I can't wait to next week. This is going to be a fire of a game. I'm super excited. I think there's a chance that we might see another like 3-3 game.
Yeah.
Something explosive. I hope that our back line can actually do something instead of just being a wet paper bag.
Yeah.
We'll see.
It'll be great. This will be the first home game since the Leagues Cup and all this nonsense with all the groups boycotting. It's going to be rocking. It's going to be exciting. We're going to have all of our players. You got Sunday afternoon soccer in St. Louis. It's going to be great. It's going to be 1,000 degrees. It'll be great.
Okay. Well, Captain Drawl, I will see you next time. For everybody listening, Steve, what's our socials?
You can find us at the BRB Fancast on the YouTubes, BRB Fancast on everywhere, and we're quite active on the old Facebook there. May Zipper over here, the detriment of my wife, she can't say that. So May Zipper over here, also AJ on Fancast, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, the Facebooks, all the kids, the Twitters. We do the Tweety X's, so like we're all over the place. So come find us. I think I just know the name of the banner I'm going to put up. So I thought it's going to be great. So you'll see our work, our handiwork. You fill out the forms, you fill out the quizzes. We have a lot of fun with you guys. We're going to be got some more interviews coming. It's going to be so dope.
Woo. Okay. Well, on that note, we'll catch you guys later. Till next time.
All right. Oh, we're seated.